Look closely at the coral reef. Past the vibrant colors, past the schools of darting fish. Focus on the predator in the open water, a coral grouper. It isn't hunting, not yet. It is hovering right outside a dark, narrow crevice. And then, it does something that simply shouldn't happen in the wild. It shakes its head, rapidly, side to side. It isn't a twitch. It isn't a reaction to the current. It is a deliberate signal, a gesture. And inside that dark crevice, something receives a message. A giant moray eel slides out from the shadows. Two entirely different apex predators, two different worlds. But they aren't fighting, they are communicating. They have formed a cross-species cartel, a hunting syndicate built on a secret sign language. But what happens to a flawless, genetically ingrained alliance when the ocean stops providing? What happens to an interspecies friendship when there isn't enough food to go around? Because the exact same signal that brings these two predators together today will soon trigger an act of violent betrayal. The ocean is usually a place of absolute self-interest. Cooperation between entirely different species is incredibly rare. It requires trust. It requires a shared goal. For the coral grouper and the giant moray eel, that goal is efficiency. Watch the grouper. It patrols the sunlit, open water. It spots a small parrotfish hiding deep inside a dense coral cluster. The grouper is incredibly fast, but it is simply too large to fit inside the tight coral branches. The prey is trapped, but untouchable. Normally, this is exactly where a hunt ends in failure. Instead, the grouper swims over to the eel's den. It points its body directly at the hiding prey and shakes its head again. The moray eel understands the assignment perfectly. It slithers out into the light. Its long, muscular body is built exactly for this environment. The eel enters the coral matrix. The parrotfish panics. It suddenly faces an impossible choice. Stay in the shadows and be eaten by the eel, or flee into the open water and be eaten by the grouper. The prey bolts. The grouper strikes. The kill is clean, fast, flawless. This is an accident. Evolution has hardwired this behavior into both species. It is a highly sophisticated economic arrangement. Right now, the reef is in a state of absolute abundance. The waters are cool. The coral structures are healthy. The prey is plentiful. In times of abundance, cooperation is a luxury that these predators can easily afford. They don't even share the meat. Whoever catches the fish keeps it. But by working together, their overall success rate skyrockets. They are a perfect team. An unstoppable syndicate ruling over this vibrant underwater city. But this entire operation relies on one massive, invisible assumption. The assumption that the reef will always provide. And the water is getting warmer. The ocean is about to break its promise. Because alliances in nature aren't built on loyalty or affection. They are built on pure convenience. When the ecosystem inevitably changes, when the prey vanishes and the slow panic of starvation sets in, the rules of the reef will disappear completely. We are about to witness the collapse of nature's most efficient cartel. And discover what happens when an apex predator realizes its greatest partner is about to become its greatest threat. To understand how this cartel operates, we have to look at the boundaries. The reef is not a single hunting ground. It is two separate dimensions stacked on top of each other. The first dimension is the open water, the blue. This is the kingdom of the coral grouper. Here, speed and explosive power are the only things that matter. The grouper is a master of the ambush. It stalks the perimeter, waiting for a mistake. But its kingdom has a hard border. The moment a prey fish dives into the complex, branching architecture of the coral, the grouper's power becomes completely useless. It cannot follow. It cannot squeeze through the tight, sharp calcium walls. A lone grouper hunting on a healthy reef is constantly frustrated by these safe zones. It sees the food. It simply cannot reach it. The second dimension belongs to the giant moray eel. The eel rules the dark, winding crevices inside the reef structure itself. With no pectoral fins and a body of pure muscle, it slithers through gaps no other predator can navigate. Inside the coral matrix, the eel is an apex killer. But just like the grouper, the eel has a severe limitation. It is nearly blind in the bright daylight. And out in the open water, it is painfully slow. It lacks the explosive acceleration needed to run down a fleeing fish. A lone eel trying to hunt in the blue is easily outmaneuvered and left exhausted. Two apex predators, both restricted by their own anatomy. So, how do they solve this problem without killing each other? Why doesn't the eel just turn around and bite the grouper? It is a legitimate question. The eel is highly aggressive and has jaws powerful enough to tear flesh from bone. The grouper is certainly large enough to swallow smaller eels whole. The answer is simple economics. Eating a partner yields a single meal, but exploiting a partner yields a lifetime of meals. They have established an invisible truce based purely on return on investment. They don't share the same physical space during the kill, so the risk of accidental injury is low. Watch what happens when they combine their two dimensions. The grouper acts as a scout. It has the eyesight. It finds the prey. Once the prey retreats into the coral fortress, the grouper signals the eel. The eel acts as the enforcer. It flushes a fortress out. The synergy creates an inescapable trap. The prey is caught between a fast death in the open or a dark death in the shadows. Marine biologists have tracked this exact behavior across multiple reef systems. The data reveals something astonishing. When hunting alone, a coral grouper spends massive amount of energy for a very low return. It is successful roughly 1 out of 10 attempts. But when it recruits a moray eel, the dynamic shifts completely. Their combined success rate is multiplied 5-fold. This is not a friendship. It is an evolutionary business transaction. The eel doesn't care about the grouper. The grouper doesn't care about the eel. They care about the multiplier. They care about the profit. As long as there are enough fish to flush out, the system works flawlessly. The underlying tension between them is suspended by a steady stream of food. They tolerate each other because the ocean is actively paying them too. But this transactional piece is incredibly fragile. It relies entirely on a stable currency, the small prey fish that fuel the entire ecosystem. If that currency disappears, the truce disappears right along with it. And the two deadliest hunters on the reef will suddenly find themselves looking at each other. Not as partners, but as rivals. Let's watch this trap close. A yellow tang darts into a crevice, seeking safety from the open water. The grouper hovers outside, vibrating with anticipation. It has successfully driven the prey underground. Now, it needs its enforcer. The grouper dips its head. The rapid, vibrating signal pulses through the water. Inside the coral matrix, the eel uncoils. It navigates the tight, jagged labyrinth entirely by smell and lateral line vibration. The tang senses the approaching threat. It turns, but the tunnel is blocked. The eel strikes, driving the tang backward, forcing it toward the only exit, the open blue. The grouper is waiting right at the door. The jaw snaps shut. It is a guaranteed death sentence, a perfectly engineered, inescapable kill zone. Escaping one predator simply delivers the prey directly into the mouth of the other. This level of restraint from two apex killers seems almost unnatural. To coordinate so perfectly, without ever turning on each other, requires a strict adherence to a complex set of rules. But this behavior isn't an isolated fluke. It is part of a much larger economy that governs the entire reef. To understand how deeply ingrained these economic rules are, look at what happens after a successful hunt. The grouper swims to a specific coral head, a designated zone known as a cleaning station. It opens its massive mouth, exposing rows of razor-sharp teeth. But it doesn't bite. It hovers, completely paralyzed. A tiny, bright blue fish darts out, a cleaner wrasse. The wrasse swims directly inside the grouper's mouth. It begins picking dead skin and parasites off the predator's gills and teeth. The grouper could swallow the wrasse instantly. It would be an effortless, free meal. But it refuses. Nearby, the moray eel does the exact same thing. It allows the tiny wrasse to navigate its jaws, completely suspending its predatory instincts. Why? Because the long-term health benefit of being cleaned is far more valuable than the short-term calories of eating the cleaner. The reef is a society built on these cold, calculated trade-offs. Restraint is rewarded. Mutual benefit is profitable. And the grouper eel cartel is the highest, most sophisticated expression of this system. They have conquered their environment. They have hacked the food web. For generations, this dynamic has remained entirely stable. Because for generations, the reef has provided an endless, reliable supply of prey. The coral structures act as a massive, sprawling nursery. Millions of small fish hatch, hide, and grow within protective calcium branches. This nursery is the engine that funds the entire cartel. As long as the engine runs, the predators remain perfect partners. But ecosystems are not invincible. They are highly sensitive, deeply interconnected machines. And a machine can only take so much pressure before something fundamentally breaks. The shift doesn't happen with a massive storm or a sudden predator invasion. It happens invisibly, silently. A subtle change in the ocean currents, a steady rise in the ambient water temperature. Just a few degrees, that is all it takes. But those few degrees trigger a catastrophic biological chain reaction. The foundational corals, the very architecture of the nursery, begin to experience severe thermal stress. They expel the symbiotic algae that gives them color and life. Almost overnight, the vibrant, bustling city begins to fade into a ghostly white. The small prey fish, the currency that pays for the cartel's truce, suddenly lose their habitat and their food source. They either migrate to deeper waters, or they die out completely. The engine stops. The reef goes deadly quiet. The grouper and the eel continue to patrol their territory, expecting the usual abundance. But the crevices are empty. The open water is barren. The ultimate stress test has arrived. The rules of the reef were built for times of plenty. Now, the era of plenty is over. The era of famine has begun. And severe hunger has a terrifying way of erasing the rules. Look at the reef now. The vibrant colors are gone. The movement has stopped. The calcium structures remain, but they are bone white, lifeless. This is a mass bleaching event. A sudden, silent disaster triggered by a marine heat wave. When the ocean temperature spikes by just a few degrees, the coral experiences extreme thermal stress. To survive, it aggressively expels a microscopic algae living inside its tissues. It loses its color. It loses its primary source of food. It begins to starve. And in the ocean, starvation is highly contagious. The labyrinth of crevices that once served as a bustling nursery is suddenly transformed into a barren graveyard. The small prey fish, the actual currency that funded the reef economy, are entirely gone. They have either migrated to deeper, cooler waters, or they have simply died out. But the apex predators cannot easily leave. They are highly territorial, bound to this specific geography. Watch the coral grouper. Its movements are no longer precise, no longer explosive. It swims with a slow, lethargic rhythm, desperately trying to conserve energy. The ribs press slightly against its scales, the first physical sign of severe calorie deficit. It continues to patrol its territory, scanning the open blue, but the blue is empty. Pure instinct drives it back to the coral heads, back to the cartel's trusted hunting grounds. It finds a hollow crevice and begins to shake its head. The signal goes out, rapid, desperate. But look closely at the execution. The vibration is erratic. The timing is completely off. The grouper is burning precious calories to summon its partner without actually seeing any prey. It is signaling blindly, banking on a memory, hoping the eel will flush out a miracle. Deep inside the bleached matrix, the giant moray eel senses a vibration. Normally, this is the ultimate trigger, the absolute command to uncoil and strike. But the eel does not move. It stays hidden in the pale shadows. Why is it ignoring the signal? Because the eel is starving too. Leaving the den requires intense energy. Navigating the sharp, dead coral requires calories it simply cannot afford to waste. In times of abundance, the eel trusted the grouper's signal completely. It knew the payout was practically guaranteed. But famine destroys trust. The eel refuses to spend energy on a false alarm. The flawless communication system that ruled this ecosystem for generations is fundamentally breaking down. The grouper continues to shake its head, expending more and more energy. It is an animal trapped in a loop, endlessly repeating an evolutionary habit that no longer works in a changed world. This was never really about the predators. It was about the environment that supported them. The rules of the cartel were perfectly established to manage immense success. They were never designed to manage catastrophic failure. Marine biology data from bleaching events reveals a brutal reality. The carrying capacity of the reef collapses so rapidly that survival mathematics completely change. There is simply not enough protein left in the water to support two massive predators occupying the exact same territory. The economic multiplier is gone. The mutual benefit has completely vanished. The grouper and the eel are no longer a high-functioning syndicate. They are just two desperate animals, sharing a dying space. And hunger is a powerful, dangerous force. It doesn't just weaken the physical body, it actively rewrites behavior. It replaces patience with immediate aggression. It replaces restraint with total desperation. The delicate truce that kept these two killers from turning on each other was paid for by the prey. Now, the payment has stopped. And when the next lonely fish finally appears on this dead reef, the cartel isn't going to share the kill. They're going to fight for it. A lone squirrelfish drifts across the bone-white coral. It is a ghost in the graveyard, one of the very few survivors left on this section of the reef. Instantly, the coral grouper locks on. Its predatory instincts surge, but the grouper is exhausted. Its movements lack their usual explosive power. The squirrelfish senses a danger and darts into a deep, narrow fissure in the dead coral. The grouper stops right at the entrance. The prey is trapped, but it is entirely out of reach. The old rules dictate what happens next. The economic system demands a specific sequence. The grouper swims over to the giant moray eel's den. It dips its head. It vibrates. It sends a signal. This time, the eel responds. It slides out from the shadows, but its demeanor has completely changed. It is not moving with the calculated, cooperative rhythm of a partner. It is moving with frantic, uncoordinated desperation. The eel forces its way into the fissure. The trap is officially set. The grouper waits in the open water, jaws ready, expecting the flush, expecting the delivery. Inside the coral, the eel corners the squirrelfish. In the days of abundance, the eel might have simply pushed the prey out, knowing another opportunity would quickly follow. But starvation fundamentally rewrites the math of survival. When does an ally become a competitor? Exactly at the moment when the cost of sharing exceeds the cost of stealing. The eel doesn't flush the prey outward. It strikes. It crushes a squirrelfish in its jaws, deep inside the coral. The grouper feels the vibration to kill. It waits for its partner to emerge and resume the hunt. But the eel doesn't stay in the shadows. Driven by intense hunger and panic, the eel makes a critical mistake. It swims out of the crevice with the dead fish still gripped tightly in its mouth. It enters the open water, the grouper's dimension. The eel is highly vulnerable here. It is slow. It is exposed. But severe hunger has completely blinded it to the risk. For years, these two predators have operated right next to each other. They have respected each other's boundaries. They have never crossed the invisible line. But the sight of the dead fish triggers a total system override in the grouper. This single act of theft destroys years of evolutionary conditioning. The economic arrangement is immediately voided. The cartel is officially dead. The grouper doesn't see a partner holding a meal. It sees a thief holding stolen property. The grouper lunges, not at the fish, but directly at the moray eel. It snaps its massive jaws down over the eel's snout, violently attempting to rip the prey away. The eel violently thrashes, its muscular body twisting like a heavy rope. It refuses to let go. It bites back, its razor-like teeth scraping against the grouper's scales. They spiral toward the bleached seafloor, a tangle of fins and muscle. This is the breaking point, the permanent shattering of the unspoken rules. Two apex predators, former allies, now locked in active, physical combat over a few ounces of meat. They are burning massive amounts of energy they cannot afford to lose. They are thrashing in the open water, completely ignoring their surroundings. And in the ocean, a violent struggle is never a private event. The low-frequency vibrations of two massive bodies fighting travel for miles. It acts like an acoustic dinner bell. The cartel thought they were the only killers left on the reef. They were wrong. Because the noise of their betrayal has just summoned something much worse. The water above the bleached reef churns with violent, uncoordinated movement. The coral grouper and the giant moray eel are locked in a death spiral. This is not a calculated hunt. It is pure blind panic. They are tearing at each other, desperate to claim the single dead squirrelfish caught between their jaws. Scales are ripped loose. Fins are torn. Every violent thrash drains the very calories they are fighting to consume. This is what ecosystem collapse actually looks like. It isn't just the death of the coral. It is the death of logic. The cartel was built on silent efficiency, on perfectly timed ambushes. Now, they are the loudest thing in the ocean. Low-frequency sound waves pulse through the water, echoing off the dead calcium structures. And out in the deep blue, something registers a vibration. A shadow detaches from the perimeter of the reef. Sleek, gray, built for absolute dominance. A white-tip reef shark. Under normal circumstances, a healthy adult grouper and a fully grown moray eel are highly formidable. They are large enough and dangerous enough to make a shark hesitate. A shark is an apex predator, but it is also a calculator. It avoids unnecessary injury. It knows that attacking a functioning syndicate is a massive risk. But the shark isn't looking at a functioning syndicate anymore. It is looking at a chaotic, completely distracted target. The grouper and the eel are completely consumed by their own internal war. They have abandoned all situational awareness. They are entirely blind to the larger environment. They don't even see the shark coming until it is right on top of them. Who capitalizes on the chaos when the reef's top cartel turns on itself? The predator that doesn't rely on rules. The shark accelerates. It doesn't bother with a tactical approach. It simply crashes directly into the fight. The sheer kinetic force of the impact violently separates the grouper and the eel. The shark's jaws snap shut, instantly claiming the disputed squirrelfish. It swallows the prize whole, banking aggressively, circling the two stunned predators. For a brief, terrifying second, the shark seems to calculate if the grouper or the eel is worth eating, too. But they are large, and they are armed with heavy teeth. The math doesn't work. The shark turns its tail and disappears back into the blue, taking the only calories on the reef with it. The dust slowly settles. The water clears. Look at what the breakdown of trust has actually accomplished. The grouper is battered, exhausted, suspended heavily in the open water. The moray eel retreats rapidly into the nearest crevice, its snout bruised and bleeding. Neither of them got the fish. They burned an immense amount of energy. They sustained physical damage. And they attracted a predator that could have easily killed them both. The breakdown of cooperation actively endangers both species. This is the hidden vulnerability of apex survival. Scarcity doesn't just end cooperation. It turns former allies into active liabilities. The very presence of the eel is now a danger to the grouper. The very presence of grouper is now a threat to the eel. The syndicate is not just broken, it has become a death trap. They cannot hunt together. They cannot fight each other. They can only run. But where do you run when your entire world has already died around you? Let's survey the aftermath of the battle. The water is incredibly still. The reef is completely silent. The chaotic, violent energy of the fight has completely dissolved into the vast, empty blue. Look at the bone-white coral structures now. Without the massive schools of small prey fish darting between the branches, the scale of the devastation is undeniable. The structures no longer look like a bustling underwater city. They look like a sprawling monument to an ecosystem that used to exist. We find a coral grouper hovering near the edge of a deep drop-off. It is entirely alone. It fiercely guards a wide perimeter of open water, constantly scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. But there's absolutely nothing left to guard. The territory is worthless. 50 yards away, buried deep within a collapsed, bleached coral head, we find a giant moray eel. It sits alone in the shadows, its jaws rhythmically opening and closing just to pump oxygen over its gills. It fiercely defends its tight, narrow crevice, but there is no prey left to defend it from. Two apex predators, once the undisputed, cooperative rulers of this entire ecosystem, now permanently isolated from one another, trapped inside their separate, empty dimensions. Then, something truly tragic happens on the dead reef. Driven by the relentless pressure of starvation, the grouper slowly drifts closer to the eel's territory. It pauses right outside the lifeless coral matrix. Out of pure, ingrained evolutionary habit, it dips its heavy body. It shakes its head, a weak, desperate vibration. The old signal, the call for a partner to flush out a ghost. Inside the dark crevice, the eel's lateral line registers the exact frequency of the movement. But the eel does not uncoil. It does not slide out into the light. It simply retreats further into the shadows. It ignores the call entirely. The language is dead. The alliance is permanently broken. This is the ultimate price of dominance. Can an apex predator adapt to a world that no longer rewards cooperation? The answer is written in their absolute isolation. Survival in this new world means aggressively unlearning everything that made them successful in the old one. This was never really about a single fish and a single eel. It was about the invisible rules that govern every complex living system on Earth. When resource networks collapse, the behavior of the inhabitants violently resets. We see the exact same patterns on land. International trade agreements dissolving, global alliances shattering during times of severe resource shortage. The mechanism of survival is entirely universal. The greatest evolutionary strengths inevitably become the greatest survival liabilities when the rules of the ecosystem change. The cooperative hunting trap was an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. But it required a massive foundation of ecological abundance to support it. When the foundation cracked beneath the heat wave, the brutal truth was finally revealed. Alliances and cooperation only survive in times of plenty. Scarcity reveals true rivals. The underwater cartel has fallen. The complex reef economy has completely crashed. But the ocean is a deeply interconnected, unforgiving machine. The collapse of a foundational ecosystem cannot be contained to a single coral graveyard. If the hyper-efficient masters of the reef are starving and turning on each other, what is happening out in the deep, open blue? When the great coral nurseries die, the food supply for the entire ocean begins to steadily shrink. The environmental shift is already moving rapidly up the food chain. If these incredible reef predators cannot survive the onset of famine, what happens to massive oceanic titans that rely entirely on them? The story of the reef cartel has reached its inevitable end. But the ripple effect of this ecosystem collapse is already spreading outward. To discover how this exact same scarcity is actively rewriting the rules of the ocean's largest pelagic hunters, you must see the next chapter. Because in a rapidly changing world, no predator is safe from the consequences. Subscribe to Survival Brand, because the investigation never stops.